Arr. This is a very quick update on the third season of all Transformers. It's tentatively titled Transformers Lexicons, after Lexicon, the website, because it's not MUSH, even though we had some MUSH stuff. It was rejected. Yes, and earlier we were saying, oh, exciting TL Aaron stuff. Well, we read most of what we had downloaded about that and decided, I decided, we're not going to use any of it. Apparently, his later stuff, he got very angsty and dark, and it was all R-rated, so basically we couldn't really use any of it. So, yeah, he got angry at his exes and so forth, and got very full of angst. So, let's just say that. So it got very angsty. It's too angsty. It's like, okay, that doesn't tell a story about Transformers. That's somebody annoyed at their ex or their kinks or whatever they're into. And we don't really go there. That's not fun. That's not fun. It's fun to have alternate universes where the Decepticons win or lose, or the Autobots win or lose. That's fun. Time gates and things like that. And in space bridges and stuff that's in Transformers. Yeah, we want to do that. There's a few angsty titles. We've chosen 8 stories. There could be a few others. And at the last hour, the 8 stories that were chosen after the editing for a day and a half, off and on, went back and found a story to replace another story that was by the famous Bobby Carruthers. And she had another one. Instead of dealing with just Chassis and Springer and RC, that lady, it's the origin of how she was killed in the other timeline, which is interesting, because now we can see that. That was interesting enough. So all right, it's a murder mystery kind of thing. All right, cool. Yeah, so Chas, so we get to see that. So that does sound angsty, but it's not as angsty as you might think. There's a few others in there. Of course, the one we're going to be working on shortly is the Starship Locations meets the Transformers. Do that first, which is sort of pseudo. It's not a pilot, but it does kind of introduce the characters that are in this season. So that's interesting. Kind of introduces them, so you get to see them and go, oh, those are the guys that are going to be in the next season. There isn't a pilot per se, so it could count as one, even though it's not. It's sort of a fun thing. Just do a fun thing and have it not make sense. In the tradition of Emgo the Freaking Geek's little sketches at the end, and in the tradition of Phelan Portis' sketches as well, in which he does characters doing funny things at the end of his videos. But a whole movie about the goofiness of that. Transformers Simulations and 3 other stories are involved there from Lexicon. So it's a Lexicon. Yeah, so that's pretty much the short end of this. I guess I'll throw this on whatever making of is going on, sort of through the history of it. Today is the 21st of March, and the draft covers are done. I don't want to give them away. Some of the drafts are long. We have somebody that's definitely a contender for the Belinda Kelly and Ivy Bonleen Rage Everest Awards and so forth. Yeah, in the sense that this other person has written 2 novels that are going to be included as episodes from Lexicon. Somebody named Chromia 311 that has written it's a Mary Sue type story, but it's cool because it's the way it's set up. Yeah, there's a prime in it, one of the 13 primes. Okay. That's what was different about it. It's like, all right, and yeah, and it ties into the origins of the Decepticons themselves. That piqued my interest. So let's do that. Yeah, so there's a couple of time portal ones that need to be liked. Yeah, so we're going to do those. Yeah, so there will be a little time travel. But that's kind of par for the course with some of that. It's really always end up getting home and all that. Yeah, so yeah, we couldn't use T.L. Ahrens. Couldn't use any of Jazzy's new stuff. There was some newer Jazzy stuff. The jazz and jazzy stuff. Couldn't really use it. It just didn't work. There was some other people that stories were just either too short or too messed up or too dark, or in the case of one story which was long enough, too much like some of the other stuff. So, and there were stories where there were, especially with the Aaron's ones and with this other guy, there were stories where it was like he rewrote a story from when he was a teenager, when he was in his 40s. This person did, this other person, and it was like they were just teenagers in the story playing Transformers, which is not interesting. I know we've done that when we were, but it doesn't make sense to literally relive that. That doesn't make sense to do that. Why would we do that? Why did anyone sit through that? They're playing with their toys. No, there has to be a sense of realism, even though you are playing with toys. That isn't literally like you're trying to avoid doing housework, so you want to do toys. That's just odd. Or you're a kid and you don't want to come down for dinner or something. Nobody wants to see that. It was with the Aaron's ones too. Yeah, it was like it was. Yeah, there's this weird. There was this character named Rusty, who was a Rosanna Witwicky, Hot Rod, Daniel Witwicky's descendant in that one. And yeah, in our version of the short story Paper Flowers, we changed some characters around. Changed her to Dana Sterling, which made more sense, because it couldn't be her. Yeah, but then we had somebody like that in the Jenna character from the Cloud. So somebody like that, but not really. But yeah, so yeah, we couldn't use the other stuff. It did say it was rated R on the thing. Well, allegedly rated R, but yeah, you can't really use that. You're gonna put it up YouTube. They couldn't film it either. I mean, how would we? They crush GI Joes and put fake blood all over them or something, and say this is so and so that's been mutilated. No, we could get away with that with Trans Tech back in the day, but 20 years later, no, we can't get away with that. So yeah, yeah, we just can't get away with it. And if they're just angsty about their partner or ex-partner, then I don't want to go there. You don't want to do that. Suppose the person might get upset. Say, oh no, you translated the thing without asking. Yeah, so I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, so there's some other. They're not cohesive, as connected as Mush was, so they're not as following the same wavelength. It turns out that we did adapt the full Andraxis saga, and it turns out we did the part 1 and part 7. We did part 1 through 6, and then did 7. So, and even though it was 1 and 2, it was actually, if we've already gone there, so we looked at that again, but said, no, we've already kind of done this. 1 through 6 is one story, and then we did 7. 7 is its own. It's long. It's another novel. So yeah, it was. I was like, wow. 7. That was the Wrath Planet stories, basically. The other Wrath Planet story. The first Wrath Planet story was the Transitions of Wrath. That was the Transitions, Springer, Chess. Back to the maybe. Some of them might not be as long, just because we could film them differently. We don't need to edit the stories themselves to change them to our characters. There's no need to do that. And we're not posting them again, because Lexicon already posted them. We don't need to post them again. Not doing that, and we're not making a profit. By that, Lexicon. Transformers Lexicons. Dun, 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 dun. Yes. Yes. Oh, I look all evil and sardonic now. evil. Tell him evil right. Tell him evil eyebrows, evil haircut, on my evil pee-pee. Okay, to add to the other story from yesterday, because I wanted to finish up the story today. It's late. It's about 9:27 on the 22nd. We don't know how many of those 9 episodes plus the Star Trek one do. We're doing the Star Trek one first, so we'll see what we're going to do this summer. The Star Trek one is the spring movie, and we'll see from there. They're at least a 2-parter in there. There's a 3-parter in there, multiple directors allegedly. It's all Calcat doing. Various other people and saying it's them. Mark Cards is the only one that isn't. In case you didn't know what was going on, he thought maybe he's completely bonkers, and he's like, oh, Calcat, there's dude like, yeah, these other guys in the studio and everything. No, it's just Calcat, which is amazingly prolific. The stories are based on lexicon short stories and novellas. Lexicon. So we decided to call this season Transformers Lexicons instead of all Transformers MUSH, because it's Lexicons. It sounds like a Transformer name, a lexicon. It also is kind of a nod to Rob Powers from 2 seasons ago, when his character of, we called him Draconis Prime in our version, but he was called Lexius or Lexicon originally. So that's yeah. So when the Star Trek meets Transformers, you will be introduced to the new cast, some of the old one. It will be reliving events from the movie at some point, or in some ways. And it appears there are elements of the Wrath going on. There are space-time portals. There is we do the Jazz Springer and they do this Jazz Springer and RC thing. They're back. There's other stuff. Again, Bobby Carruthers is back. Well, in the story, it's a story from like 2002 or so. So it's a while back, 20 years ago. But yeah, they're back. There's a Jazzy story in the finale. There's of course, we renamed it Rakshi, even though there is a Rakshi as well that writes fanfic. But I used only one of her short stories last time. We didn't use any of her short stories this time, so it doesn't matter. We also, halfway through season 2, misspelled her name as Rakshi instead of Rakshi, with the H in the wrong place, or an H altogether, and decided to cheat the scene and say like, oh, actually there's 2 of them, Rakshi and Rakshi. That works. We just did. But in the story they put 2 of them there, so there's a place for Rakshi or Jazzy to come back. And yes, find a way. Transformers can be rebuilt, Optimus Prime was rebuilt. Transformers can be rebuilt. So, yeah. So again, we're not using anything from T.L. Ahrens. His main site doesn't allow you to download anything. The other one, Lexicon, does allow you to download stuff. We didn't realize that most of that stuff was R-rated, and we don't want to deal with actual slash and actual like violent slash Transformer stuff. And, yeah, this is like, it's basically PG-13. So. Also, it wouldn't do it justice. We couldn't film it like just destroying our action figures. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So yeah. Also, the human characters being beaten up or tortured or whatever is not interesting in this case. The Transformer torture was bad enough. The other stories, that was freaky enough and weird. Yeah, we just don't want to do that. I mean, not that I don't mind a good horror story with some good splatter comedy. It's just that here it kind of doesn't work. So, and some of it wasn't good. Some of it was very bad, so we couldn't use it. There were other stories too. There were 21 some stories we looked over, narrowed it down to about 9. Well, 7, but then we took some of the short stories and said, like we did for season 3, season 2 of Trans MUSH, and stuck some together. So these 2 are good, and we want a better ending than we had with the ending of The Portal and the other one. And the Tragic Kingdom story. We wanted a better ending than that, so we chose some more stories to tack on to the other ending to make it a better ending, because you don't want to end on a sour note, even if it's like 2004 or at that point and everyone's angsty. Yeah, 3 years post 9/11 and several years post the grunge era, they're still grungy. They have titles, that are blood and emptiness and things like that. But yeah, dark episode titles. But it is supposed to be a Transformer war, so yeah, it doesn't really match anything modern current. That's good. They will make allusions to Transformers movie. We're not sure what. Maybe just some of the scenes. Because that was a pivotal moment in the series in '86 when they switched over to 2005. That was like shocking. Oh my God, there's 2005 now. They envisioned 2005 way different than 2005 actually was. Hoverboards from Back to the Future type things flying around, and Transformers, I'm assuming, gave the humans technology so that they could actually do that stuff. I'm assuming that's what happened. You had Autobot City and all that. And, yeah, so... kind of reminiscent of our Blair Witch Project movie years ago, and the Blair Witch Project had just come out, and they did a Transformers Blair Witch Project crossover called the Beasties, the Mousetrap Project, and made it look like Spike Wigwigi was in college and married to Carly, and she had a little kid, roughly the same age as Daniel, nephew at the time, which was funny. But yeah, that was strange. Yeah, that was a little weird. But he wouldn't have been, actually. I got that wrong. He would have been he would have been older than Daniel. But I didn't add up the dates right. He would have been older, because he would have been born in '86. He would have been 2005. He would have been 21. See, I didn't add up the dates at all correctly. So, yeah, maybe somebody else he's referring to. But yeah, unless he's Buster, that still doesn't make sense. So it didn't add up. It didn't really add up. So he's not in there in the movie. It's just as well. It's supposed to be scary. Ooh. Yeah. So Transformers Lexicons. That's the name of it. Tentatively, I'll have to go through all of the scripts and the highliner lines that you should read. And reading the lines. It won't be all of them, because that would be too dang long. I did not separate a lot of the, especially the blockier stuff. And you don't need to read that part. You can just skip over that. Yeah, so they won't be as long as they look. Like, there's one that's 170 pages. It's not going to come out to that long. Because if you just do the dialogue only, and condense it, it's not that long. Yeah, so that would be like a 3-part episode or something. Kind of, yeah, pretty much, or a 2-part episode. Because they're an hour long usually, episodes. The Star Trek Meets the Transformers is a little longer. This is the movie. To do that one first. So, greenlit Star Trek Meets the Transformers first, and see what the rest happens after that. A season is on its way. A 3rd season of Alt Transformers Lexicon, which you hinted at last season. There was some Lexicon stuff from last season. Like Andraxis 7 was from Lexicon. Yeah. So there's already been something that was already a Lexicon story. And some elements of the Scythe of Destiny story were kind of Lexicon 2, I believe, weren't they? Yeah, I think the 2nd season had some elements of that were kind of that. They were in both. They were rewritten in Lexicon in the mid-2000s, which started in 98, I believe, 98, and then ran to 2006 or 7, and now they're up till 2015. I think it's that far. I didn't include anything that was after 2004. I thought that would be pushing the boundaries of what we could do with it 18 years later. And yeah, so we're like, nah, I don't want to quite go any further than that with the other later stuff, just because unless it'd be really amazing, unless like like one of them contacts us and says, like, one of the writers from the other seasons contacts us and says, I just wrote a great new one and you got to do it. Which did happen with Andraxis 7. That wasn't a new one though. She was like, oh, there was a 7. There's a second part. 1 and 2. Go do the second part. It's really cool. Okay. So we did. Yeah. More or less what she wanted was to read it, not to put it on as an episode, but okay with it. Read it. Starscream Lord Commander. I mean, come on, that's writes itself right there. Starscream thinks he's the boss of the Decepticons anyway, so that's a great idea. So yeah, we had to go there. Yes, so yeah, that was and yeah, Andraxis. Also, somebody pointed out that Andraxis is a World of Warcraft character or something. Didn't know that. It's also that. So I guess it was sort of a crossover with that series. Without even knowing it, we didn't. I had no clue. I don't know why I didn't have any clue, but I had no clue that was actually a word from this other series that they used. Yeah. Conveniently, I called it Transitions of Wrath, and Transitions was Transitions of Wrath, and the others were Andraxis. I think I did use Andraxis for the other sequels. Even though Transitions of Wrath was not meant to be an Andrax story. It wasn't meant to be. It was her version of it. It was Springer and RC, and it was Transitions is what it was called. We have another version. I have another story. We have the origin of Chassis and her death. We get to go back and see that. I'm assuming it's a big long flashback that takes up the whole story. Assuming that's what's going on. It's a flashback too. There's like a bookend in the present and then goes back hundreds of millions of years or whatever it is. All right, why not? Why not? As Imgo the freaking geek. That's what he called himself. Imgo the freaking geek. That's it. On his channel, not to me, on his channel. He did comment on his Christmas podcast, but this weird kitty guy keeps commenting on my stuff. How did he likes Transformers and bought them and stuff? Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't a Patreon supporter though. He was not a Patreon guy. Aw. Oh well. No, I wasn't. I wasn't a Patreon. You're glad my Devastator review was useful to him. It was. Because I did not know how to transform my own Devastator toy. He had a Devastator one. And I had to transform Draconis Prime's armor as well that he had the thing for. Because that was basically Dark of the Moon Optimus Prime's trailer. And actually, the part that I got wrong, that I got off, he didn't really show that well in that one. So I still don't know how to get the trailer back together. Yeah, you couldn't see where the arm was turned around and twisted and stuff. To get the arms back into the trailer. You couldn't tell where that was on that model toy. So that one wasn't too good, but the Devastator one was very good. But many years ago, he did try to transform RID 2000 Robots in Disguise car robot. The Fire Optimus Prime and Ultra Magnus actually said, I don't want to do that ever again. It was one of the hardest ones to transform ever. Was merging those two together. That's like, oh man, that toy is no. I'm doing that one again. That's why he's not in the movie. And I included that joke in Trends Tech when they built Fire Optimus Prime. And they show him the movie, and then he tries to transform and merge it with Magnus. He can't. He just lets heap on the ground like ah. Yeah, so I alluded to that. He apparently saw it years later. Comment. No, he probably just had the same problem with Transformer. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so, yeah, Transformers Lexicons. It's not named after somebody named Lexi or anything. This Lexicon is the channel. Transformers Lexicons. The series. Yeah. It's not it's unofficial. There's no one getting paid. They get bylines in the story based on a story by such and such. And and it's edited by Cal Cat. So each one is based on a story by such and such. Example, oh, we have, this is one of them. This is one of them, just one of them, The Portal. And The Portal says it's done by a guy named Katie Cooper, 2003 A Lexicon, based on a series, but edited by Cal Cat, directed by Billy Allen Balls and Morton Roadkill. Oh, that's allegedly who's going to direct it. This one has the wrong shooting draft written on it. It says 8 December 2021. I will fix that. It should be, because it's not that early. It was to, I don't know what happened there, to 22 Mar 2022. I fixed it. Okay, 22 March 2022. Yeah. Billy Allen Balls. As Kelly Bullocks and Billy Allen Balls. They're the two weirdos from KTS. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for the evening.